Hey Smitty, who should I take at the very
end of my draft?
Do you have any big-time breakout
sleeper players, Smitty?
I get asked this question every single day. Smitty, give me a guy at the end of my draft that can do something crazy for my team in 2023. I got two guys on screen right here, Charlie Jones and Tank Dell. These are guys you take in round 15, 16, 17, 18. In our community, people know what time it is. You got to grab him in like 14 or 15. Don't take him earlier yet. You don't have to. No one really knows he's coming, which is head scratching to me because this is the best wide receiver in the entire nation when you look at the numbers. It's crazy to me how people don't know this guy's got top 1 to 3 wide receiver upside in this 2023 draft class. Is beyond me. And how people don't know that Charlie Jones is tucked away, nestled away, all nice and snug on that Bengals roster. That also is head scratching to me.
Charlie Jones, wide receiver, Cincinnati Bengals.
The Fantasy Football Show Sleeper Edition, deep late in your draft edition, begins right now.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
Take a lap.
Okay, let's start off with Tank Dell. Statistically speaking, this is the best wide receiver in the nation.
What are you talking about, Smitty?
Wouldn't I have heard about that, Smitty? Well, I don't know. It depends who you watch. If you're watching my channel, yeah, you'd know that. Unless you've been living under a rock and you're coming back around to play fantasy football again. Maybe you're a lightweight and you take January through June off. I don't know. But if you follow me, you know what time it is with Tank Dell. But let's say you're strolling in late to the party and you don't know what I'm talking about. First of all, shame on you and take a lap. You should know Tank Dell. You should be ashamed of yourself. Smitty, tell me why he's the number 1 wide receiver in the nation statistically. Well, let's take a gander at the 2022 college football receiving stats. Guess who almost had a triple crown by 1 reception? Nathaniel Tank Dell. Tank Dell here at the number 1 slot was number 2 in receptions. Guess who he lost to? Charlie Jones. We'll get there in a minute. Number 1 in receiving yards, number 1 in receiving touchdowns with 17. He missed the triple crown. You know, the thing Cooper Kupp amazingly accomplished at the NFL level. Yeah, this guy almost did it last year in college. 1, 1, 2. And let's get back to Charlie Jones in a second. This guy was the guy. And yeah, Tank Dell's small. He measured in at 5'8", 165. Am I worried? Not at all. The NFL is a different NFL now. You can be that size at the NFL level when you're as good of a route runner as Tank Dell is. Tank Dell runs some crispy routes, and I'm telling you right now, the rapport between Stroud and Dell is unmatched between any quarterback and wide receiver coming out of the draft class because Tank Dell and Stroud became best buddies at the combine. So much so that when Stroud was drafted, he reached out to the Texans and said, hey, I want you to take Tank Dell. And they took Tank Dell. The rapport is already there for this guy to be the number 1 wide receiver. Some will say Nico Collins. A lot of people are going to throw out different names, but this is the wide receiver that Stroud wanted. This is the crispy route runner that you might say, oh, Smitty, he's going to get dominated at the line of scrimmage because he's 5'8", 165. And I'm going to tell you, no, his route running, his quick feet, his left to right quickness, he's actually a very dominating wide receiver at the line of scrimmage. And Devontae Smith has proven you can be a slender guy, run really good routes, and dominate at the NFL level. Devontae Smith, who's taller but not heavier, is proof that this is gonna work. Not to mention my eye test for this kid is through the roof. I really don't care what a measurement says. I don't care what somebody over here says or an analyst over here says. I'm telling you, my eyeballs tell me this kid can run routes like JSN. I don't have JSN's route running above everybody else. I have Tank Dell and JSN's route running above everybody else. This guy is running crispy routes and you're going to love every minute of it because you're taking him at the end of your draft. If I'm wrong, who cares? You can cut him for a player on waivers, but I urge you not to do something knee-jerk like if he doesn't rise up in week 1, you cut him and then you're coming back to me in week number 2 or 3 going, Smitty, he's on the waiver wire. How much fab do I put down? And then I got to come in and say full load drop.
Initiate full load drop.
Don't put me in that position. Don't be knee-jerk with a rookie player that is going to rise up, but also don't be surprised if this guy could be your wide receiver 3 as early as the first couple weeks of the season. Don't be shocked if he's the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver in this draft class. Don't be shocked if he's the Christian Watson. Don't be shocked if he's the Jahan Dotson from this 2023 rookie wide receiver class. And again, end of your draft, round 14 or 15. Round 15 or 16 with your grandmas. In our community, 14, 15, but I'm telling you, he stays on the board almost until like round 16, sometimes round 17, but reach a round. Don't think you can't reach a round in round 15 to get your guy. And just keep an eye on that pre-ranked list, and as he climbs up, even within sight, strike. Don't wait until round 16 or 17 if you're sitting there around 15 and you see him creep up a little bit when you sort by wide receivers on your draft platform. Just strike. I feel so comfortable when I go really light wide receiver 3 and 4 shopping in my draft, and I can get him and couple him with a Hyatt. This is a guy you take in round 18. Tank Dell, Smitty approved.
You've just been Smitty approved.
Charlie Jones. Let me just say something about Charlie Jones. Scott Hansen came on the show months ago, and we talked about who his favorite player was deep in a draft, and he said Charlie Jones.
Charlie Jones, wide receiver, Cincinnati Bengals.
I like him.
He came out of Purdue, and nobody in the Big Ten could stop him. Nobody in the Big Ten could stop him, and he was the one at Purdue with okay quarterback play, and everybody knew they had to go to him, and nobody could stop him. And now he's going into a system where Burrow can get the ball to anyone, anywhere, anytime.
I like Charlie Jones a lot, and I like that Scott Hansen also likes him. And the crazy part is, like with Tank Dell, people aren't talking about what kind of season Charlie Jones had in 2022, and he's going to play football with Joseph cigar-smoking Burrow. And yes, look, I know T. Higgins is in the way. Boyd is in the way. And you're saying right now, Smitty, he needs an injury. Save your breath. I don't need to hear it. You're taking him in round 18, especially in best ball. Maybe not redraft. Maybe redraft, you monitor the guy. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying in redraft, I get it. You want to wait and see. I get it. Maybe he's wide receiver 4. Maybe he doesn't touch a football until week 10. Maybe he touches a football in week 4. We don't really know. My point is, in redraft, non-best ball, I can understand why you'd wait to pick him up. You monitor him, and that makes sense. You jump before anybody else does. The moment you sniff this kid getting regular touches, you got to grab him. But in best ball, you don't have to make decisions about when to start guys. Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty, where you can play best ball. You can draft with us every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If you want to get into a draft, click that link in the description or enter promo code Smitty. The link enters promo code Smitty for you, but we draft every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And you can draft him in round 18. He never gets drafted. Never. You don't need to reach. You don't need to take him at round 15 to be safe. You don't need to take him at round 16, 17 to be safe. He's always available in round 18 as your last pick. In fact, you got to go really far down in round 18 with the wide receivers that are available to find him. But back to his stats, the kid was number 1 in the nation in receptions, beating Tank Dell. Remember when I said Tank Dell was 1 reception shy of the Triple Crown? It's because Charlie Jones was the number 1 reception getter in 2022 in college football with this 110. He was number 2 in yardage, only behind Tank Dell. He was number 5, tied for number 5 in touchdowns with 12. Why is nobody talking about Charlie Jones? I don't know. I don't understand it. I know he needs an injury to get into the lineup, but remember, T. Higgins is in a contract year, wants big time money, probably is seeking top 5 wide receiver money. There's a strong shot that the Bengals are potentially toying with the idea of this kid replacing T. Higgins. And you can say, oh, that's so stupid.
Smitty, why would they do that?
They gotta pay Joe Burrow. They may try and keep T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. I'm not saying they won't try that. I'm not even saying that their goal isn't to just have him as the wide receiver 3 eventually, replacing Tyler Boyd, because they see big things in this kid. And maybe he's the wide receiver 3 for the next 5 or 6 years in Cincy, which would be a great fantasy football asset. I'm not against that at all. I'm not predicting T. Higgins to for sure leave and this guy be the number 2. I'm merely saying they put him in place to maybe give themselves some options if they get down the road and T. Higgins is requesting insane money that they don't want to pay. Keep all of that in mind. Nothing is said. I'm not saying one thing over the other. I'm merely giving you the lay of the land that this kid is good enough to maybe become the number 2 wide receiver in Cincy. His college stats will tell you. His game film will show you. Your eyeball test will confirm that he is a very good player with amazing hands that led the nation in receptions, 2nd in receiving yards, and 5th in touchdowns. He plays with Joe Burrow. A lot of things need to unfold, but I really like the odds. In a best ball draft in round 18, in a dynasty draft, almost undrafted. In fact, he probably is your last round pick, and you scoop him up and you hold him. Check your waiver wire right now in your dynasty league because he's probably available. Again, draft with us on Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty. The link is in the description, or use code Smitty, but the link inserts code Smitty for you. Underdog will match up to $100 in your first deposit. Draft with us on Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays and see where these guys fall to you in your fantasy football draft. Now get out of here.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.